The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production.
Kev, in the history of this podcast, I don't think we probably have actually, but I don't think we've been late for a good two years maybe. So no. I apologise that the episode is coming out later than usual by a good few hours, but we are placing this firmly at the foot of the railways.
If it weren't for the train strikes, we'd have got it done.
It would have been done.
Train strikes caused me so much hassle, you wouldn't believe it.
They've affected your workshops, haven't they?
Everything. It seems to be every single time there's a train strike, it's on a day that I've got something planned. So, I do have sympathy for strikers, by the way, but, each of their own. Yes, it does feel like they're picking on us.
They're picking on you, Kev.
The FujiCast.
Yeah. We're all out at Mullins. We don't like that Mullins guy. All out, everybody. I know we've agreed to pay, but we still don't like Mullins. So until he stops using the railways, last time we tried to take a train into London anyway, ended in a complete nightmare, and that we managed to, what was it we did, Kev? You managed to get on the front four coaches of the train, then there was a break in the middle, isn't there? And I managed to get on the last four. Yeah,
well, they changed the trains, didn't they? So it's basically two-engine trains these days, so you can't get from the front to the back.
I used to like those.
And I was the other.
Yeah, in the old days, Kev, when they used to have a buffet car, you could wander all the way down to the end, get yourself a coffee, and wander all the way back up again.
Yeah,
but not these days. Well, welcome to the FujiCast. We are here. A few hours late, but we are here. You and your questions from the Facebook group, and also the email looks the inbox has filled up nicely this week, Kev. So thank you for sending those to click@fujicast.co.uk. We don't really have a formal guest as such, although she is important. It's Amy Milstein, and there's a reason for Amy Milstein that I'll come to in a moment. And we have a book of the week, Kev. What do we have?
We do. We have Stones from the Inside.
Stones from the Inside?
Yeah.
Is that a bit like that? Do you remember that book you reviewed? Brilliant book you reviewed that was Instruments from the Inside.
Well, it's musically related. Yeah, it's the private pictures of Bill Wyman.
Oh, the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
Not the.
And when I say private pictures of Bill Wyman, not that private.
Okay.
And I have a signed copy of it.
Do you?
Yeah.
Who's the photographer?
Bill Wyman. That's why I said it's the private pictures of Bill Wyman.
Well, he might have had a photographer with him. I don't know.
No, he is the photographer.
Ah.
Yeah, it's really good. Anyway, we'll get to it.
Well, good. How did you get it signed? Did you see him?
No. It was there's a lovely new bookshop in Cheltenham. Really beautiful place, actually. A really wonderful bookshop. Yeah. Really light and airy with a coffee shop and glass ceilings, and it's great. And so he went there. He rocked up, boom, and signed a whole load of books. I weren't there when he signed them, but I went and picked up a signed copy.
Okay.
Hatchard's is the name of that bookshop, by the way.
That'll be on my visit list. In our gaff, we always play the How Old Is game. And we usually ask that thing that starts with A and ends with A, but I won't say it just in case yours comes alive. But how old do you think Bill Wyman is?
He's got, I'd say, late 70s.
86.
Is he 86?
Mm-hmm. Mick Jagger is 79. There's a reason why Mick Jagger's voice is still so powerful, and that is he's a really fit chap. Whereas other artists, this is a bit of a sweeping generalisation, but I got it from a health podcast. Other artists that have let themselves just enjoy the fruits of their labours across the years and have not kept as fit as Mick, their voice, because a voice is a muscle, it starts to weaken. So that's why some artists who are older keep their voice. And Mick Jagger's voice is still really powerful.
So what's the secret then? Come on.
Just look after yourself. Your body, your voice is a muscle and is part of the overall health regime that you have of keeping fit, working out, pushing weights. I'm not suggesting you go push weights with your neck, of course.
There's things he's done that's not technically looking after himself, I'm sure.
No, across the years, I dare say that's true. And his good mate Keith Richards has probably taken him off the rails a few times. How many times do you think he's been married, Bill Wyman?
Oh, I don't know, 5?
No, 3. What was? I think there was a very famous marriage. Who was the famous marriage?
Mandy, whatever her name was, wasn't it?
Mandy Smith.
Mandy Smith.
Mandy Smith from 1989 to 1993. But he's been married to Susanna Costa since 1993. Still going strong. There we go. Bill Wyman facts for you.
Very good.
I can tell you're already falling off your seat with boredom.
Right. I edited my pictures from yesterday.
Oh God, Kev! We talked about this while we were in London, and that, by the way, is why Amy Milstein is our guest this week, because we met up with Amy. Now you know Amy, don't you? She's a photographer from New York, and she's one of the. Would I be right in saying few, or I was going to say one of the few documentary wedding photographers in New York, or am I slightly off the boil with that one?
I'd say few is pretty accurate. Yeah, I don't think there's that many of them. Got to say, there is a few, but there's a few that I know of. But yes, it's more of a minority than a majority.
And you've been mentoring her, haven't you, across the years?
I did over time. Yeah. Very nice lady. Lovely to see her when she came to London.
Really nice to meet her, and we had a good old chat. I think it was fun when we all went. You took us to this really, if I can say so, Kev, bit of an odd pub at the end. I couldn't quite work out whether it was half theme and half authentic.
Waxy's little sister.
What's it called again?
It's Waxy's little sister. You've heard of Waxy O'Connor's?
No, I haven't. Educate me, Kev. Educate me.
Waxy O'Connor's is a massive, massive, massive pub in London.
Right.
And Waxy's little sister is a little pub in London.
As in little sister?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh.
That's basically it.
World's best Irish pub.
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea, Kev. There we go. I'm educated. It was a great pub, but it had this sort of ceiling that looked like it was growing, didn't it? It was kind of like a cave kind of edge to it. Fantastic.
Unfortunately, the dumb waiter wasn't working, but usually when you go upstairs, they send you beer up in the dumb waiter.
I know. I like the look of that. Look good fun.
It
was broken. You broke it last time, right? So Amy Milstein is our sort of guest. We were just wandering, and I thought, well, I'll just wander and record a couple of words with Amy. So that's what we've got halfway through. And she talks about life as an American wedding photographer and documentary work and a bit of street and stuff like that. So it's just a soupçon of a conversation with Amy later on. Right.
Good.
Questions. You going to go first or me?
I'll go first. Why not?
Yeah. And that's what we were talking about. We were talking about the fact that when we do the podcast, you're often doing something else.
Well, I'm on a deadline. I photographed the Great Bristol Run yesterday, and they need their pictures.
Have you not got the pictures out yet?
I got the live pictures out yesterday, but for the ones that went straight to press. But now I've got to do.
How many have you got? How much did you overshoot by?
Oh well, I've got 266. I've filtered down to give to them.
Right.
And I shot like nearly 2,000 pictures.
Oh, well, that's not too bad.
It's just burst, it's just burst stuff.
Okay, so it's just sorting out the frame amongst the 15 or 8 or whatever it is that you need.
Yeah, exactly, because they're running. And actually, interestingly, I used the X-T5 and the 16 to 55 lens and the 50 to 140 lens. You do not need a bazillion frames a second of the XH2S, in my mind, my opinion. There we go. Anyway, moving on.
Is that oh, no, you were shooting with the XT. Sorry, I got confused for a minute.
XT5.
Why do you always pick on stuff I've got? You don't need a Mac. You don't need an 8. Just because you don't like it, Kev.
No, actually, no, it's not that at all. I mean, I had a conversation with somebody last week who was like, who said they were going to get the faster frames per second. Is it the XH2 or the XH2S that does the faster
XH2S, yeah, the one that I've got.
And I said to them, why do you need it? And he basically said, well, because more is better, isn't it? It's better. Yeah. You'll be able to shoot more frames and get more keepers. And I was like, yeah, true. If you are really genuinely shooting professionally sports or wildlife, and you're tracking birds across the sky and stuff like that. But in my mind, I can't think of any other position where you would need to be shooting.
I always just put mine onto. Have I got my cameras here? No, I haven't. But I always usually just put mine onto medium burst rate. It's more than enough for me. But then again, I suppose I'm not photographing action in that way that you're suggesting. Yeah. Okay. Right.
It does. The XT5 is great because it obviously the 40 megapixel pictures, so you can cropping in quite a lot, which is very nice. And I shot all JPEG. So basically, it's just selecting, cropping, straightening, sending.
So all JPEG. What film simulation?
Oh, I went for the standard, flat one.
Up the top, flat. Are you going to do anything to it? A little bit of contrast or anything, or you probably won't need it?
Well, I will just go. I know what I'm going to press that lovely, wonderful button in Lightroom that says auto.
Yeah, but you might still need to go into some pictures and just correct a little bit of, if something's overexposed in the foreground and you want the midground to be that. Oh, you're not going to bother with that.
No, I will do that, of course. Yeah. But it's quite nice.
Otherwise, auto, all the way through.
Auto, yeah. I'm just editing now. I'm just looking at Wallace and Gromit as they're warming up the family race.
Wallace and Gromit. Oh, right. People dressed up as, yeah.
Well, no, not quite, because it was Bristol, isn't it? So Wallace and Gromit are the big charity there, the Grand Appeal.
They weren't running then?
For the children's hospital, yeah.
Because usually you get these great foam characters running, don't you? Yeah,
we had a bit of that. We had some Darth Vaders. All of the boys from Bristol University ran basically naked with a little long cloth.
What?
Yeah, it was different, to put it that way. It was good. Brad was there. Brad Wakefield was working on the job as well.
I noticed I didn't get the invite this year.
No, well, just kept saying no.
I kept saying I know. Well, it was always weddings I was doing, which is I know, it's a nice way to say no. When I was doing I know I don't look like a runner, but I did run once, Kev. I used to run. The last half marathon I ran was the Reading one. And there is a point where when you're getting overtaken by those large foam characters that you get just a little bit disheartened by it. When I was overtaken by, I don't know, I think they were an army troop brigade, whatever, and they were in a long caterpillar costume. I think there were about 10 of them, and they zipped past me. I thought, if you can't beat the caterpillar, you're in trouble. Right. Questions. Come on, questions. So you going first on me?
Actually, you go first, because I've got quite a few to read through, and some of them are a bit complicated, so you go first.
Hello, Neil. Hello, Kev. Sounds like the email thread might be getting lonely. So here goes, says Robert Ham from Menlo Park in California. Question, whether I'm using an X100 or XT series camera, I shoot everything in a 3-shot RAW plus JPEG burst with third step of exposure. So I always have 3 pics to choose from, mainly to ensure there's an exposure I prefer to work with, but also to minimize camera shake. While I know this always uses more battery power, which doesn't bother me, is there any sense that this could shorten shutter life over the long haul? It's the shutter thing. We used to worry about shutter life, didn't we, with DSLRs? They came out with a particular shutter count that you were expected to reach, after which the camera would self-implode or something. I don't feel it's as much. I mean, there is a mechanical thing going on, but I don't feel it's as much an issue in mirrorless, is it?
Well, you generally get a longer lifespan out of a mirrorless one because there's no mirror. And it's often the mirror that comes flying out the front of a camera, doesn't it, when it breaks? But yeah, to answer the question, no, it shouldn't really affect the shutter because it makes those extra shots digitally. Yeah. Essentially, it takes one picture, then digitally adjusts accordingly in the camera. I would say, though, that's probably overkill shooting every single picture
with RAW and JPEG burst. I mean, JPEG typically has, I think, eight stops of latitude. I would imagine 4 in each way. So a RAW even more, of course. I'm wondering why you need to do it for, as I assume it's steps of exposure here. Why not just shoot RAW and shoot it bang in the middle and use the latitude that you've got each way?
I mean, I can understand, if you're not shooting lots and stuff, I can understand why you might do it, just for a kind of safety net thing. But yeah, if you're shooting lots and lots of pictures, then that would kind of take the editing process would take the fun away for me personally. But of course, it might be very different in that case. But yeah, ultimately, no, it shouldn't really affect your shutter. And I wouldn't worry about shutter anyway. These mirrorless cameras of all shapes and sizes will go on for a very, 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 very
long time. And he has a suggestion here. Maybe you should make the email questions link more prominent on the Facebook page. Get more questions via email as well that way, ? Oh, I see.
Facebook.
But yeah,
you sure he's not saying website?
It means the website, I'm sure, but it does say on the FB page.
Yeah, I can't do anything on the Facebook page. Unfortunately, that's all controlled by Mr. Zuckerberg and his fanatics.
What any fanatics?
I can't. Yeah, all you can do is pin it to the top. That's it.
Yeah.
I can't make it any more obvious.
Have a chat with Mark. I'm sure you know him. But thank you, Robert.
Yep.
Right, Facebook, yours.
Okay, so Dan Isidro, Kev and Neale, hola, from España.
Oh.
Quick question. The front command dial on my XT3 isn't working properly. I have it set to ISO, and although I can turn the dial, the ISO doesn't change up or down smoothly. Skips around all over the place. The rear command dial works fine. Maybe a bit of dirt has got in there. Have you ever had an issue with command dials?
What's this on? What camera, sorry?
XT3.
Right, no, I've had this on my X100V.
Oh, well, there you go then. Answer away.
But each time, it's a weird thing. When it happens, I have to take the battery out, start all over again, pop the battery back in. I've even done a factory reset a long, long time ago, granted, not long after I had the camera, but I've had the exact same problem. So I don't know how to solve it without the extremity of taking the battery out the battery compartment, shoving it back in and starting all over.
What? So the ISO, when you attach your ISO to your front dial on your X100V,
it dances.
It dances until you take the battery out and reset it.
Well, I just almost have to reset the camera really with the battery out, pop it back in, everything behaves again.
That sounds a bit odd.
Doesn't happen all the time, okay, but it only happens now and then.
That's very peculiar, because if it's like, I would expect that to only happen if the dial is faulty, i.e., there's dust in there or there's dirt in there or it's broken. I wouldn't expect that to be fixed temporarily when you reset the camera or switch the battery out. That sounds very peculiar.
Like an electronic problem that I've got. That's not a dust problem.
Yeah, I mean, So, well, Dan, I mean, basically, I would, if you don't need to get it repaired, if you can use another dial. Live with it. I've never really had any issues. I know that there's a lot of people want the command dial, front command dial, to be able to control ISO on the XH2 series, and that's something I see quite a lot. But I mean, if it's under warranty, it won't be under warranty XT3, but you could probably get that repaired reasonably easily, I would have thought, if you need to. But you've got other command dials. And you've got the XT3 as well, so you've got the ISO dial on the top as well. You can flip between it. I'm trying to think now.
Oh, stand by. Kev's thinking, everybody.
Warning.
I'm trying to think if there was a setting where you can set. I think there was for the aperture. You can set the step level to be increments of 25 rather than full ISO stops.
Do you think that might be
something? In my head, it's too early in the morning for me to fathom that out, but it could be something like that, Dan. But then I would assume that would happen with the rear command dial as well, rather than just the front one. Otherwise, it sounds like you've got a bit of lovely Spanish sand in your camera, I'm afraid, mate.
You'd be good on a help desk. You've got a bit of lovely Spanish sand in your camera. You have. Next. MWOS.co, you know WOS, don't you? Yeah. This isn't really a question, and you may know.
Oh, I bet this is about the rear LCD.
What do you think? Do you think that's what? If you were a betting man, how much money would you be prepared to put on this?
All of it. I'd put my entire overdraft on it.
Would you? Not really worried if you use this on the show, as it's a tired subject. I think it's looking good for you, Kev. My sub-monitor failed yesterday. That's 100% failure within a month of each other on 2 cameras bought at the same time, both still in warranty. That's the good thing, I suppose. But I'm reluctant to send mine for repair, as M's came back looking like new, with a new top and bottom plates as well as a replacement screen, where mine is starting to look a bit like Don McCullin's after it was shot at, and I quite like that. I refuse to create a false patina on it if they refresh it. You'd like Kev's cameras. We were sitting there the other day having a coffee. There were 4 of us. There was Emily Renier, Amy Milstein, there was you and I, sitting having a coffee. And of all the cameras on that table, Kev, yours looks shocking. They were well loved. They're well loved, well patinaed. But there we go. So he's just reporting. It's not really a question.
Well, I'm sure if you send it off to be repaired, I'm sure if you ring them up first or send a letter with it, just say, I just want that bit repaired. Don't go replacing top plates and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure they do that.
You could put it maybe in the sort of comment section, put send it back looking like Mullins cameras. So we'll go for a question instead from Ken Batchelor. Hi, Kev. Oh, this is just for you. I'm the chap who's been mulling over the problems that AI will bring to determining authenticity in photography. I think I've found a possible temporary solution. It's temporary because technology will advance and probably supersede it. What about a film camera that has a built-in LiDAR sensor that will not take a photo unless it seems appropriate depth there seems an appropriate depth in the image? That way you overcome the problem of faking an image by taking a film photo of a faked flat digital image, which will have no depth data. The camera will only operate and produce a film image when confronted with real life. This means that you can produce a certified film negative as proof of authenticity. Sorry to seem a bit obsessive about this, but it will become a huge problem and has been puzzling me. What do you think? And have you got other solutions? Well, Ken asked you, so over to you, Kev. Ken to Kev.
Well, yeah, I mean, Ken, I am also deeply concerned by it, I have to say.
How deeply concerned are you?
Yeah, I mean, well, no, doesn't keep me awake at night, but what I'm concerned about is, we're seeing it already in the Turkish elections that are happening right now. In one of the candidates pulled out a couple of days beforehand because he was saying that there was deep fake AI sex videos of him created and posted online. Now, I don't know whether he was just a naughty boy or they were actually deep fake AI videos posted online. That's the concern I have for AI in terms of its misuse rather than its potential good use. Yeah. And I am sick to absolute death on Facebook of seeing AI generated pictures. And yes, most people who are doing it are saying this is AI art and this is that and whatever. I'm just bored of it. I'm absolutely bored of it. By the way, so it's a very good. So what Ken was saying is actually a really good idea. Yeah. And so LiDAR is essentially, my understanding is they're the sensors that they're sticking in, what they call it, self-driving cars and everything. So they can test depth, distance, right, and not bump into each other and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Probably the same things that we have in our Kias that tell us if we're about to go to the back of the lorry in front of us. Yeah, and it starts going beep 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 beep. Yeah, I don't.
It's probably
I'm sure that will never happen.
Light detection and ranging. That's it.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, range detection and stuff. Yeah. Honestly, I don't know what the answer is, and I don't know if there is an answer, or even if there should be an answer. We just move on, don't we? Life moves on. Yeah. I feel like there's certain elements of photography that will be perfectly protected from AI, and other elements that will be decimated by it.
LiDARs in iPhones, built directly into the devices, emits a laser to more accurately measure distances of surrounding objects. So
no. The LiDAR in an iPhone is when it fibs to you about how much battery life you've got left.
See, another thing that I've got that Mullins doesn't like. We should have got married. Opposites really do attract.
Actually, there's an app that that's only on iPhone, iStore, whatever they call it, I thingamajiggy, that I really want, and it's not on Android.
Well, you can't have it unless you get an iPhone.
No, I can't have it. That's the thing. That's the thing. But anyway, So I do think that overall, like certainly the news syndication systems, companies and all that kind of stuff will have to get handle of this, especially the kind of what do they call it, citizen journalism. You always see this at the bottom of BBC articles, like, were you there? Send us pictures. And they need to be very careful that people are not just sending in AI generated stuff, either for the sake of it, for the attention of it, or to misdirect the news story. That is a real thing that the journalist agencies will need to kind of get a grasp of. How they do that, I don't know.
There was an interesting. Actually, Sean Tucker did a film recently about AI. I think it might be his latest film, perhaps. And he seemed to be quite buoyant about it. He wasn't as in the doldrums as I think it's easy for us to get as photographers, cinematographers and so on, filmmakers, in that he in news in particular, he was saying that if anybody gets found out, for example, they'll be out on their ear immediately. And he sort of...
Oh, of course they will.
It might be good news, looking for the good news story here, in that you get a trusted, you get a trusted segment number of photojournalists that you think, right, I know that that's real because they are X, as opposed to, well, who's this person that's just contacted me? I've got no idea whether it's true or not. I think I'll go to my age-old photojournalist, thank you very much. I don't know, am I clutching at straws there, Kev?
No, I don't think they're the, I don't think real, genuine working photojournalists are going to be the problem. It's going to be, when, brutal elections come along and politicians getting themselves into trouble and all kinds of things. I just think that's coming out as like a train. And it's bad enough as it is on social media. People listen and believe absolutely anything. Stick a picture that's very authentic, and that will sway them when it comes to voting for things.
But that's my point. That's my point here, that photojournalists, established photojournalists with their accreditation, etc., might find that they're flavour of the month again, as opposed to years that they've been battling with citizen photojournalists or citizen journalists, because they get to the story and they're cheaper, or sometimes quicker, of course. But I don't know. It could be a revolution backwards towards in a good way, that is, towards the photojournalist. This morning, when I was sitting in the dentist chair, I did my very early dental appointment this morning. I can't remember which radio station it was, because it was in between the sounds of you get in the dentist chair. But that somebody had won a competition for their wedding to have their first dance completely generated by AI. And part of me thought, oh, that's quite cute. And then the next part was, that's rubbish. Here's a radio station saying, we're creating AI songs for your first dance.
Yeah, and actually radio stations are one of the, they got a problem coming their way also. There's software out there already that will, you just put in the prompts, you tell it what you need the anchors to talk about, tell it what kind of music you want, and it will create an entire radio show that is very, very authentic without having to use any humans at all.
Yeah.
So they're definitely one of the ones that I think need to be a little bit careful.
Music radio. I think talk radio, it'll come obviously, but at the moment, getting AI to be able to swerve left and right when you're in conversation is probably a little way away yet. I hope, Kev, because look at us talking here. Can we have Kev and Neale AI?
I used it to write some code the other day, ChatGPT, right? So I needed to write a piece of code that stripped out a whole load of URLs, starting with a certain string from one of my own web pages that I downloaded the content for. So I went to ChatGPT and I told it to write this piece of code in C#. It did it. I went back, I tested it. It didn't quite work. One of the references was wrong. I went back and I said, this reference is wrong. It redid it for me. I went back and it worked, but it didn't include everything after the full stop for the .htmls. And I literally said to it, oh, can you now include where the string has .html at the end? Did it. Boom. That would have, if I was coding that from scratch, probably would have taken me the best part of a day. And I did it in 3 prompts and with ChatGPT, and it was done in 20 seconds.
Ken Batchelor now has gone to stick his head in the sand, and I'm going to join you, Ken. Dig another hole, please, sir. I'll be right next to you.
Yeah, it's a challenge for a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to it. Also, definitely, I just don't want it to be misused. But who am I? Nobody listens to me.
Well, I'll tell you who was real. Amy Milstein. She was real. When we were in London last week, at the end of the week, we met up with Amy. Had a lovely chatter and conversation as we walked around the streets of Londinium, and we just recorded a few thoughts, and we thought you might like to hear them. It's not very often we get the opportunity to actually talk with those that listen to the show and are visiting from overseas. It's a double treat because Amy's also a documentary wedding photographer, which, I must add, there are not many of in New York.
This is very true. There are not many of us.
Why do you think that the style is different in the US? Because you would have thought that candid and authentic, those kind of words, you attach them to photography, that would be exciting for an audience.
I think that there's a long tradition of a certain type of wedding photography that includes just a lot of the sort of expected posed shots, the tradition of, now first look or dad seeing the bride, and people want to set things up so that they make sure that they get those shots. And a lot of people say that they're documentary wedding photographers, but then they do a lot of detail shots and set up group shots. So people maybe, I don't know, maybe they don't have the knowledge of what that truly is. And so as long as there's some of it, they think that's what they're getting. But a friend of mine said once that he thinks that in the US there's a lot of tradition of at events you take posed photos. You get class photos every year. If you're on a team, you take a team photo. You take prom photos. Like there's a long expectation of the posed photo from this special event, and that I think plays into it as well.
I like the story of how you met Kev and how you how the documentary wedding photography became something that you would consider, because initially you were at a conference and you thought, well, I don't really want to go and watch something about wedding photography, and then Kev was talking about the reportage documentary style of it, and I think that surprised you, didn't it?
100%. I was at the Fujifilm conference and I had gotten in late, and all of the seminars that I would typically have signed up for were full. So I was left with something about off-camera lighting, which I wasn't interested in, and then Kevin's, which I think was called Family and Wedding Documentary, and I thought, yuck, wedding photography. I don't want to do that, because I thought of it as, lots of formal shots and wandering around various venues taking photos. But, that's what was available. So I went, and I literally sat there just fascinated, probably asked way too many questions. And
we had time. You were the only one in the audience, right?
No, there were quite a few of us in the end. And left thinking, well, if I can shoot weddings like that, that's what I want to do, because that's how I like to shoot. And
that really was the turning point. That was what turned you on to wedding photography.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, I would never have done it.
Who are the big... we know of John Dolan, of course, because Kev has spoken to him on the show recently, but who are the big players in documentary weddings in the States?
Well, there's a great documentary wedding photographer, Zalmi Berkowitz, Zalmi B on Instagram. He's fantastic. He's someone else that I really love. Pretty much everything he does. Olya Vozaskaya is great. She's probably one of the purest documentary photographers I know. Those are maybe the ones I like the most. That's my opinion.
So where do you go with your business? Because you've been doing this for a little while now. How do you market yourself in such a huge... I mean, you're based in New York. This is a huge area. You would have thought it would be very easy to find enough clients.
You would think, but the difficult part is educating people about what documentary photography really is. Because a lot of people say they want it, but then they're like, oh, and can we send you our shot list? And then you have to explain to them that actually, no, that's not really part of what you do as a documentary photographer. It's what actually John Dolan just recently told me. You want to be a narrowcaster. You want to do narrow casting. Yeah. So you don't want all the clients. You only want the ones that want what you do. And so your focus is just educating people, really, so that the people who want what you do can find you. Obviously, that includes the typical online marketing through social media and websites and things. But it's not as you would think there would be a huge market in the U.S. for documentary photographers. I think it's much smaller than maybe even in the UK.
What do you do when you're... I'm going to come the other side of you. Hold on. What do you do when you're not shooting weddings?
I do a lot of personal stuff, street work. I also have a photo studio where I do portraits, so I'm sort of opposite ends of the spectrum in that regard. But I think actually being a documentary wedding shooter really informs how I shoot in the studio.
Yeah.
Because I am still looking for that natural moment when the person has relaxed and they're not posing for me as such. So that's what I do a lot of when I'm not at weddings.
You said something really interesting when we were talking earlier, which was, in essence, shoot other stuff, do other stuff.
Yes, because, and this is something else that years ago, John Dolan and Holger Thoss used to run a seminar called How Not to Be a Wedding Photographer.
Hey, I love that.
And it was a great name. And one of their things was you should always have other projects going on. Don't just shoot weddings. Shoot personal projects. Shoot birthday parties. Shoot, whatever you can, because you don't want to lose the perspective of sort of real life. And I think that's really important, especially for documentary work.
You've just arrived in London and you've got, 10 days, I think, to make documentary pictures here. But actually, the first call you were thinking about making wasn't London at all. You were going to go to I think you would call it a soccer match. But you are a fan, actually a proper bona fide fan of Wrexham.
That's true.
I think all America are now fans of Wrexham.
That may be true as well.
Mighty Wrexham.
They might know more about Wrexham than about the Premier League, which is probably sacrilege if you're here. But yeah, I was considering going to see Notts County at Wembley tomorrow because they're playing in the National League playoff final.
Well, you knew this.
I knew this, yes. And I think I should wear a shirt that says Wrexham fan for Notts County.
So what do you've been to London before, so is there anything photographically you want to do while you're here?
I plan to spend 2 or 3 days literally just wandering around with my camera. I feel like when I've been here in the past, I haven't been here alone. So when you're with kids or friends, you're always sort of, you don't want to stand in one spot for 30 minutes taking pictures of people walking by, and that's sort of what I plan to do. A lot of people on the street, typical London, maybe some in the rain.
You get that. Actually, you did say that when you're making photographs that often you return to America to the family, and they'll say, well, where's London? Because the pictures you've made could well have been made probably in New York.
Yeah, I tend toward, the interesting people on the steps with the cigar. The street, the guy, the construction guys on the street. So yes, I often go back and there's like 0 photos of any tourist locations I probably would have photos of the underground signs, which would give away where I was. Yeah. But yeah, I do tend toward the individual rather than the location overall.
Who do you follow in street photography? What floats your boat?
Okay, Joel Meyerowitz.
Yes.
I like Joel.
I like Joel.
Yeah. Who else?
He's a very gentle photographer.
He is. I think that's probably the style. I don't like the in-your-face style so much.
Of course, being in New York, I think of that as a mecca for street photography. You have all of life in one place.
True, and the subway is probably my favorite place to shoot because it's the most, I'm sure it's true here as well, it's the most democratic form of transportation. Yeah. There's no first class, there's no separation. You're always next to people who are speaking different languages from different backgrounds. And just the faces. It wasn't as much fun when we all wore masks on the train because you couldn't really see expressions, but we're kind of back to normal now, so I love it.
We should have got pictures of them then. They sounded like they were having a proper family ding-dong.
Alex Webb and Rebecca.
Alex Webb, yes.
Alex and Rebecca, they're amazing.
Shooting-wise, you're an X100V fan.
I am an X100V fan, as well as an XT5 fan. Those are my two.
For your weddings, XT5?
Weddings, XT5, and X100V. Okay. I always have it with me.
Yeah?
I would like to shoot a whole wedding on the X100V sometime.
Yeah. Do you think you could?
I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's just different. It would be more of a scene instead of up close, which is fine.
I've had a go doing it.
Did it work?
And it kind of worked.
Yeah? I think Kev did it once.
Yeah.
I think Kev's done it.
Yeah.
I think he did a whole wedding on the X100, not V, an earlier iteration.
Do you think you're at the perfect cameras with your Fujis?
I think so.
Yeah?
I love the XT5. I love it. I think it's a great camera for weddings. Yeah, I wouldn't shoot with any other camera at weddings, I think.
And our thanks to Amy for all sorts of things, for your wonderful company, and also for our Japanese meal. That was generous.
Yeah, it was. It was lovely, wasn't it?
Hey, if I'd have known she was offering to buy lunch, which she didn't tell us to the end, I would have booked to the table at the Ivy.
Yeah, gone somewhere a bit more expensive. Yay!
Yeah, I know where we need to go. Kev will take you to his Irish bar, but we'll go to lunch at the Ivy first. It's a nice little restaurant. You'll like it. It's a small cafe.
It was a nice day, just wandering around London without any pressures, wasn't it?
We should do that more. We should do that more often. Definitely. I know we always say that, but we should. Maybe with a bunch of, what would the collective noun for lots of FujiCast listeners be?
Patrons.
Patrons? No, not necessarily.
Yeah, I'm only talking to the people that give us money.
Okay. Oh, some things never change. Right, we got a book of the week. Come on, let's do a book of the week.
Got a book of the week.
This sounds interesting. This is Bill Wyman. Bill Wyman is a photographer.
Yeah, so this is called Stones from the Inside: Rare and Unseen Images. And I'll read the blurb first. It says, known, unknown, rare and unseen images from former Rolling Stone bassist Bill Wyman, capturing life on stage, backstage and on the road. And it says, as soon as Bill Wyman was given a camera as a young boy, he quickly developed a passion for photography. After joining what would become the world's greatest rock and roll band, that's very subjective.
Yes, it is.
Wyman continued his hobby. When he didn't have his bass, he had his camera. The result is an arresting, insightful and often poignant collection of photographs.
And probably literal at some stages, I would have
it's
thought.
Showing his exclusive inside view of the band. From travelling to relaxing, backstage and on. Stones from the Inside is a unique view captured by a man who was there every step of the way. And it's actually a really, really cool book. I am not the biggest Rolling Stones fan, I have to say. But in fact, well, here's a little thing. Bill Wyman was responsible for me breaking my foot.
How?
Well, so they came to Cardiff and I was doing my A-levels at the time and I really wanted to go and see them. So booked a ticket, got permission from the school to take the afternoon off school. And then this was obviously when I was 17, so there's no mobile phones or anything. So me and my mate were going to go, me and Fat Phil, and we waited for my dad to pick us up at lunchtime on the, I don't know, Tuesday afternoon or whatever it was. And my dad turned up and he said, I've got some bad news, boys. It's been cancelled because Bill Wyman's cut his finger. And I was like, oh, what? And so they rescheduled it for the following weekend. So instead of going to watch the Rolling Stones concert, I went to play football and subsequently broke my ankle. All entirely Bill Wyman's fault.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, and he never said sorry. Anyway, the book itself is amazing, and actually, it wasn't. He is an amazing musician, but the pictures are amazing as well. A lot of them are very snapshotty, but there are some very well considered, well exposed, kind of thought out. Certainly the portraits and stuff like that. But there, if you're a music fan of any genre, I would say that you would enjoy looking at this stuff because everybody's interested in the behind the scenes. When you watch a music concert, a music documentary, I love all of that footage of them just before they go on stage, and they're walking down the corridor and they're having their last kind of cup of tea or whatever. So it's just really cool. So I'm just like flicking through here and there's an amazing picture. I think it's the central spread of Keith Woods just basically sat in this room. He's got there's an Olympus trip camera on the side. There's 3 or 4 packs of Marlboro Red. There's an electric hot pot 4-cup boiling thing, carrier bags everywhere. There's a bin. He's just sat there looking as rock and roll as you possibly could be.
You're talking about Keith Richards or Ron?
Oh, sorry, Keith Richards.
Ronnie Wood, wasn't it? Ronnie Wood.
No, yeah. The picture I'm looking at is Keith Richards.
Keith Richards.
And it's just like these amazing images that you would just never really see. Yeah. But the ones that I love the most are like on the ones on the aeroplanes and stuff like that when they're literally just out of the concerts. And they rush them out quickly, don't they? So they can don't get caught in the traffic and get kind of assassinated, things like that. Stick
What?
them on an airplane, and off they go. Yeah,
Yeah, well, they get them out quickly,
so
so they don't have to try and get home on a train. That's the problem.
yeah, that's true. But there's some really beautiful portraits as well. There's a really lovely one of Jerry Hall on page 156, who of course was I'm not sure if they were married at the time, but to Mick Jagger, of course. But yeah, really beautiful, kind of well thought out portrait there, and there's just some really funny images of them, messing about and just being themselves. Really, there is also some pictures from on the stage, and that's interesting because it indicates that he took his camera with him on stage as well, and just kind of when he's not playing his bit, he just picks his camera up and starts taking a few shots. It's great. I'm looking at this particular one where that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the black and white one that I thought, here we go. So page 104 and 105, really, really and 106, I suppose, really, of Ronnie during rehearsal times, where it's just, these days people will look at this photo and think, I wouldn't want the camera that was taken on. It's a little bit soft, a bit grainy and everything, but my God, it's got so much soul and so emotion in it that, it's just wonderful. And that to me is what photography is all about. Not megapixels and speed and 55 million frames per second and what have you. But yeah, really, really cool book. I really enjoy it. If you're into any kind of music, I think you'd enjoy this book. There's obviously Rolling Stones have had their ups and downs and trials and tribulations over the years, but I think you'll enjoy it as a photographic archive. And it says that some of these pictures have been seen before. I don't recall seeing any of them at all. There's pictures here of John Lennon and Yoko Ono just sat in a rehearsal studio. Amazing.
You're right. He had a strong compositional eye and angles and stuff. There's one of, it might be Ronnie Wood actually, coming off the famous Rolling Stones at the big lips and tongue logo on the bottom of the fuselage, and he's got that as the dominant picture, but then he's got a band member coming off and down the steps out of the aeroplane. So some really strong compositional elements to his work, aren't there? And and seeing behind those scenes, you're absolutely right. They're the fascinating ones, aren't they? And
the dedication at the front says, "To my late uncle Jack Jeffrey for giving me his Brownie box camera on the 1st of February 1959, which inspired me to see the world in a different way."
Fantastic. Bill Wyman. That book, it's available now, obviously, because you got a copy the other day. Yeah,
it was actually created in, published in 2020.
Yeah, it is rare.
Iconic Images. Isn't that somebody the person who is involved in Iconic Images?
I do, actually, yes. So they must have licensed all the pictures.
There you go. And it is available on Amazon and various other places, or Hatchad's Bookshop if you want a signed copy in Cheltenham.
Why do you cough when you say Amazon?
Well, I don't really like Amazon.
Do you not? Okay.
Don't like giving them money.
Do you buy stuff through Amazon much?
Yeah, of course I do, because I'm not one of those people that says I hate Amazon, they're capitalists, and then actually use them. I'm one of those people that says I hate Amazon, they are capitalists, but do still use them.
Yeah. Okay, great. But a book of the week.
It's been a while.
Questions. Do you want to lead with one, or do you want me to go with one?
I'll go.
Go on then.
John Wayne says, any thoughts on using the automatic integrations between Etsy, the print space, and Printify to produce and sell prints? I would anticipate using Etsy's own Patreon website builder and or Squarespace as the personal branded gallery front would be best. Thoughts?
Do you mean Etsy as in when you make art and sell it and make $1 million and retire and just live by your house with a lovely pool? Yeah.
But this brings us to the nice segue, which was not planned, where we can talk about the art gallery element of PicTime, of course.
Nice, so Kev. I like your style.
Yeah, that was good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I was just thinking, we haven't spoken about PicTime yet. And then that question came up. And so PicTime have their own art gallery. So that's what I use. I create, although right now I'm moving all my websites are being moved around a bit, but In normal days, I have all my prints that I do sell, and I sell a few, not many, maybe like 5 a year. I'm not on about wedding prints now. I'm on about personal prints to strangers, as an art gallery in PicTime, and I just plug that into my Squarespace website, and of course you could do it to WordPress as well, and it just sits there, looks like a real page. You can put in all of the text, the sizes, dimensions, all of that kind of stuff, and then they buy the picture, and then PicTime sends you the money. Bob's your uncle.
So in essence, that's your Etsy, is using pic-time.com.
Yeah. So Etsy, the Printspace, Printify are all places that you can set up e-commerce systems and plug them in. But in most cases, they're for physical things. Yes. Well, not the Printspace, but certainly Etsy. We use the Printspace for the merch on our FujiCast website, of which we never sell anything. But that's like mugs and coffee cups and all of that kind of stuff.
When was the last time we sold a coffee cup, Kev?
We did in the early days. We did sell about 6.
Did we? Okay.
That was it. Yeah. But it's ridiculously expensive. I'm not expecting people to now go and buy a mug or anything, because I totally get it. It's really expensive, because in order for us to make any kind of a profit, you pay a huge premium. Whereas with something like the PicTime art gallery integration, there's no, it's part of your subscription. There's no extra fees or anything. So I would go down that route, certainly, if you have PicTime, of course. Yeah. But if not, absolutely think about embedding the key thing is that the interface needs to look like it's part of your website. You don't want it to be you don't want them to be seeing the pictures, and then when you click it disappears off to Etsy or something. Try and keep it within the boundaries of your website using an iframe or an embeddable piece of code that I'm sure that all of those platforms would be able to supply.
So you're saying that's because you use Squarespace, that you've been able to integrate the two, and they don't look too different between each other?
Doesn't look different at all. They look identical. It looks like the whole process is happening on my website.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going there now. Kevin Mullins.
No, it's not on there. It was on f16.click, but that's been in the middle of moving. Yeah.
Okay. So F16 is moving to Kevin Mullins.
Yeah.
Photography.co.uk.
Yeah. It's just waiting for the train to arrive now.
Is it?
It's got its suitcase packed. Yeah. Very big suitcases. Just waiting for the trains to arrive.
Should be ready by October 25.
It's considering getting an Uber instead.
Right. Okay. A question from Tony Reedsma. Hi guys, just dropping in to say hi. It's been a while since you interviewed me. Not sure if you remember. You spoke to Tony, didn't you?
Yeah, I remember.
Since then,
it was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was. My daughter was married. My son graduated from college. For my daughter, I made a large photo book, hardbound with over 100 pages. I'm so glad I made photos throughout the years, even during those years when my kids didn't want me to make photos of them. We're going through that period at the moment. No, I don't want a photo. Don't put it down. No. And they're glad I persisted without being mean about forcing them to participate in me making the photos. I just I just made them as life unfolded. I plan to put together a book for my son as well. Anyway, I used Blurb, and I wanted to plug them because they were great, and even did a free reprint due to a couple of minor issues with the first print. Now, you're right there, Tony, because I have had situations where I've had to have a blurb reprinted, and even one where the book fell apart. I haven't used them for a long time, granted, with wedding couples, but for a while, every single wedding couple got a blurb. And I had one in particular that just fell apart. And they didn't doubt it. They didn't question how the book had been handled. Nothing like that. They just instantly replaced it and sent it straight to the couple. So I like Blurb. A while back, I sold all my Fuji gear, 4 X-T4s, assortment of lenses, 56, 90, 16, 55, and bought into the Lumix S5, but I've recently added the X-T5 as a B camera. There's just something about those Fuji colours that keep on drawing me back. He's using actually vintage lenses with his X-T5 with a speed booster. I've got my vintage lens that was sent to both of us that I claimed.
No, I've got some for the GFX system.
What do you use?
I don't use it, so I can't even remember what it's called.
Okay.
The reason I did use in the beginning is like an 80mm lens, but then the GF 80mm thing came out, so I got that instead. But it was good. Yeah, it was quite good, but it didn't have the same range, so you get quite a bit of distortion, of vignetting that you had to deal with afterwards, and it was manual focus.
That speed booster then, does it have a curtain that I haven't used one, so I don't know, but does it have a curtain that comes across it when you change lenses? Because he said here, I like this setup because I can switch lenses when I'm out in dusty conditions without exposing the sensor to the elements. Now I think that's one of the really nice features about Canon's R5 and R6 cameras, and maybe others in the range as well, I don't know, where a curtain comes across when you remove the lens. So you never have to get into, hopefully, any sensor cleaning. It sounds like maybe the speed booster does that, or am I reading that incorrectly?
I don't know. I don't have a speed booster. I've got a Kip-on adapter, but I don't know. It sounds like it does. Yeah.
I've always thought that would be a fantastic. I would imagine it adds a bit of bulk to the front of the camera, but I just think that's a fantastic feature. I'd love to see that. That would be on my list of stuff I'd like to see.
Yeah.
I agree with you. That makes you feel a lot more confident, Tony, when you're changing lenses in conditions where you think, oh, here we go, sensor cleaning time when I get home.
Yeah.
Right. Yours then, Kev. That was more sort of homage to Fujifilm.
Okay. Sorry. 1 second.
Sorry, are you still working?
No. I closed
how many images are you through?
Sorry.
Oh, right. Okay.
I was reading the news.
You're reading the news now.
No, it was because it was about AI. Well, actually, it was about face filters.
Right.
And I thought that was interesting, and that might be relevant. And then at the same time, I closed the tab by mistake. Right. Okay. Wade Brown. Good day, guys. Some advice on Lightroom, if possible. I currently have a Lightroom iPad subscription with 100 gigabytes of storage. I am almost out of space and need to upgrade my subscription. Only issue is there are no upgrades available with iPad Lightroom. I think my only option is to purchase the photography pack through Adobe, but have heard horror stories of people changing subscriptions and losing all their saved photos. Any advice, tips, recommendations to make this a smoother transition? Yeah, I mean, if you're reliant on just the mobile stuff, and you like the fact that you open your iPad app and you open your iPhone app or whatever your device you're on, and your pictures are all synced and everything, then you do need to kind of keep it within the Adobe ecosystem. I've changed my subscription over the years, different levels of it, and I've never lost. I use the Lightroom platform, storage platform, or Adobe storage platform for my personal photos.
Do you?
Yeah. So essentially, when I snap a photo on my phone, if it's one I want to keep, I then add it to my Lightroom catalog, and then I delete it from my phone. So I always know that it's going to synchronize up to my local one. But yeah, I don't have 100 gigabytes worth of that stuff. That's for sure. I suspect the answer actually lies in storing your images elsewhere rather than, increasing the subscription levels or storage levels. So you can still store. So for example, I have my images synchronized with the standard Lightroom catalog on my desktop PC. And so it goes up via the cloud and then comes down via there, just sits and synchronizes that. Actually, is then those images are then backed up onto sync.com. But that process of getting them between the two does need to use the Adobe platform. And I don't know. So the answer is I don't know. Like storage wise, it sounds like you're happy to pay for increased storage, in which case, good. The question is, changing your subscription and losing all their saved photos. You won't lose all the saved photos if you have them somewhere. So they're not just in the cloud. So remember, if you have, what I would do in this case is get a PC, some kind of laptop or whatever, friends, even if you haven't got one, install Lightroom CC, not the full-blown Lightroom CC, create a catalog, synchronize all of your images down to that. And then make a backup copy of them, whatever, and then when you do your subscription change, you shouldn't lose any images, and if you do, they're all on your friend's PC.
Job done.
There we go.
I think this might be the final one, so if you want to close stuff down now, you can, Kev.
Okay.
Kia ora from Yada Yada Yada. Love New Zealand. Love your work. Won't bore you with endless patter. Suffice to say that the podcast is, I can't use this word, Kev, awesome.
I thought he was going to say
No, Kev. It would be, I suppose, honest, authentically honest. No, awesome. Awesome is a word for me that, I don't know, it's a bit like, I said to Sam the other day, as this orange Lamborghini went past us, making loads of noise, completely pointless in Thatcham. Because let's be honest, it's not like cruising the front of Daytona or something where everybody goes, whoa, look at that. In Thatcham, people are broadly disinterested in everything. But I said to Sam, I think I've got to an age where I couldn't drive one of those anymore. And she said, no, nonsense. It's not about...
Yeah, I'm with Sam. If you're, it might not be something that interests you, but if it does interest you, then yeah, nonsense. Say nonsense. I agree with that.
Yeah?
Right. Yeah, you should do what you want in life.
What's like the word like awesome?
Not go out and buy a Lamborghini though, because you probably can't afford it.
I think it might be a long, long time until I can afford one of those. Awesome is a word that you know my thing about awesome being attached to too many TikTok influencers who say blueberry muffins are awesome blueberry muffin. No, the moon and the tides, awesome. The Himalayas and the Everest, climbing to the top, awesome. Maybe
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you.
So maybe I can't. Maybe Tom in New Zealand. Maybe I'm just too old to use awesome now. Here's a two-parter. First part. I use primes inspired by Kay Mullins. I know that he was previously of a 23mm 56mm pairing. Now is of the 18-56 pairing. My question is, what's your fave lens pairing and why? Now, he's got a few bits to this question, so let's go with that part first so we don't lose track of where we are. I've joined you, Kev, in the 1856, and I know that it was only a couple of weeks ago I said, I'm not sure, Kev, and you said, well, your mileage might vary, which I think should be a T-shirt. And
Gemma hates it when I say that.
Does she say that? Does she hate it as much as me saying, which I haven't said for a month since you told me off for saying it?
She does, yeah. She hates the book of face and mileage may vary.
So we should get T-shirts made with both on them.
Yeah, that's right.
One on the front, one on the back. But yeah, I did go with the 1856. Now I thought, you might say there's not a lot of difference between the 18 and 23. But there does seem to be in the way that I look at stuff. But then I did a particular wedding a couple of weeks ago where the 18 was like, this is... Now I get what Kev's saying. Now I get it. I'm showing a lot more in my story making. And I think I'm coming round to it. And I still don't have... I sold my 23 and I keep looking at it thinking... Maybe there's a used one out there that's Kev quality, so I'm not going to spend too much money on it. That I could just play around and just see if I need to go back to the 23 as well.
Did you buy the new 18 then?
I did.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the new one. No, the old one. No, I wouldn't.
Is this the one that turned up during the last podcast when the box was broke?
No, that was the 16 to 55.
Was it all right in the end?
Absolutely fine, thank heavens.
Good.
No, that was absolutely fine. No, that was the 1655. I have been using the 1855 for a long, long time, but I wanted the 16 to 55 so I could remain open all the way through the range. But what about you then, 1856? I think you're sold on that pairing forevermore, aren't you? Yeah,
that doesn't change. That's it, really. I do take the little 23 f2 and the little 50 f2 prime, the little the little ones,
small ones,
with me as well as backups basically. But yeah, I can't think of any reason why I would change from the 18 to the 23 again now.
I never used the 23 f2. What's that like as a lens?
Nice, really nice. Yeah, really nice.
Tiny.
I mean, the good thing about those little prime lenses is as long as you don't need that extra stop of light, they're brilliant. If you're shooting in the daylight, outside or something, and it's so light, it's like there's nothing on the front of the camera.
Yeah.
So they are wonderful. But yeah, ultimately 1856 is my, if I was to have a tattoo on my arm of lens choices, it would say 18 and 56.
Would it? Next to things that work. Your other tattoo.
That work.
I rarely shoot at 1.4 anyway, so for me a 23 f2 that would work for me. Maybe I'll try that. Also, selfishly, do you think that a 16-33 or a 33-56 pairing, I don't know what's selfish about that, is best, or do you think there isn't enough gap between those focal lengths? Similarly, would a 16-56 pairing be too different? Too extreme? For years, when I had my Canon system, I shot with a 24 and an 85, in essence 1656, and I found that was the way I looked for probably 3-4. There's a lot of maybe 5 years. There's a lot of my galleries that I still show on my website that show that that are of that pairing.
You know, I think that, like, yesterday I was shooting with the 16-55 and I really liked it. You know, really nice f2.8 lens.
That's what Tom says here, Kev. He the 16. Maybe I should just have the 16-55 and be done with it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if you're not shooting like low light stuff, weddings, that kind of thing, you know, the 16-55 is heavier and bulkier, and you have to remember to zoom and all of that kind of stuff. Yep. I kept forgetting to zoom. Did you? Because I don't zoom generally very often, and so, you know, I'm find myself walking forwards and backwards rather than thinking, I can just turn this ring on the front. It's still also not going to be as pin sharp as the primes, that's for sure, but it's brilliant lens, you know, and you know, we can't ultimately say you need to get this lens, you need to get that. It does depend a lot on what you're shooting. I prefer, especially the 56, I prefer that look at 1.2 f1.2, you know, I think is beautiful, especially like black and white portraits, bit grainy, bit out of focus, lush, like Bill Wyman.
Like what? Bill
Wyman.
But lush like Bill Wyman.
Yeah, like his photos, not him.
Oh, right. Kev, hang on. Thank you for the work you put into the pod. I have one more as a second part question. You can have it. I'm now a fully signed up member of PicTime and love it. Recently shot a wedding and sent an all bells, all whistles download gallery link to the parents and the bride and the groom. I also sent a link to the bride to pass on to the rest of the party with access to only download very low res files with the hope of charging for some high res if they like them. I see your plan. My plan failed. And not one single person other than the bride downloaded a high res file, but many downloaded low res ones. Was this a rookie error? ? Do you make any files available to download other than to the immediate wedding party? ? And then, am I a business failure? ?
Well, the way I do it is I make all images downloadable, all at high res, but only the bride and groom get them free. Guests have to pay for them.
Yeah, that's the way I do it. But I see what he was trying to do. If you put some, you know, take down some low reses here, very, very low reses here, and you might think, oh, I like that. I'm going to have myself a piece of that. And then you buy the high res. But I'm not sure people think like that in this day and age. I think their expectations have changed. They can download that. And I assume that enables them to perhaps schlep it up on Instagram, and they're very happy with it.
Exactly, yeah. And a lot of people don't really understand the difference between high res, low res, and all that kind of stuff. No. I just keep it high res and charge for guests.
But you are not a business failure.
No, absolutely not.
Not at all. Thank you, Tom, for that in New Zealand. And that's it for this week. Sorry we're a little bit late, as we say. We will see you in 2 weeks' time. Do we need more questions on Facebook, Kev? Where are we?
We got a few, but keep them coming.
Yeah.
You know what I like them. It's for those of you that don't know where it is, it's at the top of Facebook, FujiCast Facebook group. There's a pinned thread at the top. Questions for the show.
Would that be on the Book of Face, Kev?
On the Book of Face, but your mileage may vary, whatever you want to call it.
I didn't realise that Gemma is building up a library of stuff.
Anybody got a divorce lawyer?
She's very good as well, Gemma. She does listen to the show, doesn't she? So,
she does, yeah. She does listen to the show. She never listens to my radio show, but she listens to the podcast.
Well, I think it's very similar. Sam listens to us here, but she never listens to my photo walk. So, there we go. Well, maybe they are planning in the background their own podcast, the two of them. They did do it once, didn't they? They did do one. Yeah,
we did.
We are hoping very soon we have some super announcements for you. But I can't say more, and that's rubbish, I know. But I'm very, very, and I think Kev knows the one we're talking about. Very, very excited. Very excited. Very, 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 very excited. That's it. We'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.